Hi, and welcome to the Wise Women's Conversations podcast. I'm your host, Angela Council. And with a background as a naturopath, I thought I knew exactly what happened to women when they reached menopause until I experienced it myself. I then realised that there was so much more to this time of life than what was written in the textbooks. I decided it was time to bring this stage of life out of the closet and to have some open and honest conversations with women who are going through the same journey. Wise Women's Conversation has been created to share information and experiences from other wise women in our community. Sit back and listen to the wise women speak.
Hello and welcome back to this week's episode of Wise Women's Conversations. It is Angela here. And this week I've got another fantastic guest. Her name is Melissa Turnock. Now, Melissa she does a few different things. She does Pilates, yoga, meditation, and a technique called TRE. But in essence, what she does is she helps women to reconnect back to their body and to release the emotions that many of us are holding within our body. Now, Melissa shares her story, her journey of how as a young child she started to disconnect from her feelings. She started to bury her feelings, her emotions, because she felt she needed to please her parents. And in burying her emotions and losing them within her body, she started to disconnect. And this was just a form of protection. It was a way of her feeling safe. Now, of course, none of this was conscious. This was all subconscious. It was all happening just as a way to protect her. But over the years, when she, seemingly had that perfect life, and on the outside, she felt like she was numb, that she couldn't really speak up. She really couldn't even give an opinion when people asked for it. She just kind of lost her voice and her sense of self. And she says in this conversation that she felt like she just didn't belong. And then she received the diagnosis of breast cancer, and that changed her world. That obviously it does, but probably not in the way that many people would expect. As someone who had already had a very strong meditation practice, she shares that she started to realize that this was her body giving her a message, waking her up to who she truly was, and it was time for her to release all the stuff that she'd been holding on to from her childhood and to actually finally speak her truth. And it's quite interesting the way Melissa shares that when she was going through her treatments, the way that she looked at it, which is different to what many people would be the conventional way, that we kind of expect that people with cancer respond. And I'm not going to tell you now, but listen to what Melissa has to say and how she kind of separated herself from what was going on in her body, knowing the true essence of her was just waiting to step back in when the treatments and everything were over. And as Melissa continues to share within this conversation, she talks about how many of the women she talks to or she works with, they say that they just don't feel happy. They just don't feel connected, and there's a sense of numbness. And Melissa also shares that she felt this numbness and this disconnection. She felt like she'd lost who she was, and she lost that part of her when she was a child, and she had this feeling that she didn't really belong. And I know that many of the women that I speak to also have this feeling. So this is a really great conversation. It allows you to learn that it is possible for you to basically take back control and to release some of the stuff that maybe you've been holding on to, that you've had for your entire life. And maybe these suppressed emotions are being experienced through physical symptoms with you. So have a listen to this conversation and take away the gifts that Melissa has to share. And I'll be back at the end to share how you can learn more about the work that Melissa does and what your next steps are. So have a listen, and I'll be back later. Bye.
Hello and welcome back to our Wise Women's Conversation podcast, and I'm so excited to bring to you Melissa. I've been following the work that she's been doing for probably about 12 months now, and I'm really excited to share what she does with you, and I'm actually excited to learn a little bit more about what she does as well. And so, Melissa, let's just jump in. Who is Melissa, and how did Melissa get to be where she is right now?
Melissa is a woman who is desperate to teach the journey of embodiment to other women, particularly women of my age, because what I see around me is a big trend of disconnection from the body. You know, we've kind of had to do that to be safe and to function and to be the superwoman and the super mum and wife and all the things that, you know, the expectations from out there makers, to the detriment of what is going on internally. And my experience was to be numb and frozen as a kid because there was no space for anyone to hear how I was or how I felt. There was this dynamic of resentment and unhappiness between my parents. So you find a way as a kid to go, how do I stay safe in this? What do I need to do to get their approval? Is this actually my fault? Are they unhappy because of me? So me as a poor kid, I was constantly like, well, if I do really well at school, maybe she'll be happy. If I excel at tennis, then maybe I'll make my dad happy. So what I had to do to feel safe and accepted was to shut my emotions down and not ever be asked how I was. So, of course, from a very young age, I was totally disconnected to how I felt, to what I needed, because there was always that external energy of you've got to do well, you've got to keep them happy. So I was numb as heck, but highly functioning, you know, like
many women.
Yeah, I got through school. I did reasonably well. I qualified as a speech pathologist. I did that for 10 years. I ran a department, met the man. Like, I've done all the stuff. I've ticked all the boxes. But it wasn't until about 96 when I was like desperately seeking the big questions, like, well, what's it all for? Like, why am I even here? And then fast forward to when I turned 40, I got breast cancer. And I know that was the absolute, that was the rug being pulled out from under me, because that was my body screaming at an unavoidable level of desperation. I am here and you are completely ignoring what is going on in me. And I totally believe that my body proliferated cancer to get my attention, to start to pay attention to the parts of me that I had to shut down as a child, that were still unloved at 40 years old. And that's the only way I could make sense of the shock of breast cancer, because I was extremely healthy. I was running a Pilates studio, and I was the girl that everyone said, well, if you can get breast cancer, man, what am I going to get, you know? So I started to pay attention when I got breast cancer, and I knew within that I would heal the cancer, and that then I had a real choice, and that there was no more numbness. What do I have to do to become unnumb? Because I want to feel something now. And there was this drive from my soul that so held space for my body, and I still have this beautiful relationship between my soul truth and my physical body and my energy. How can they work together? And that's how I got to where I am now. And with incredible compassion and non-judgment, I'm like, women, you don't have to go along the treadmill of your life. I'm 51 now. Like, so many women are like, there has to be more than this. Like, you know, I've been a good wife. I've done the kids. I don't feel a thing. I don't even know what makes me happy. The partner doesn't, like, we're so different from each other than when we got married. Like, the wheels really start to fall off at a certain age. And there's so much we can do to reconnect to our body and be able to live and feel safe within our body. So that was the journey that I took through a number of modalities, through a number of trainings. And now it's like my toolkit includes still the Pilates, still the yoga, still the TRE, But what really lights me up is sitting in a call like this with a woman and letting her speak her truth and guiding her nervous system, her energy body and her emotions into really actually liking herself.
I've been sitting here with goosebumps all over my body as you've been speaking. And I do want to get into TRE in a minute, but numbness, because interestingly enough, I was speaking to a woman the other day, and she has had breast cancer as well. And so she's been having a little bit of issue with drinking alcohol. And what she was saying is, I feel so numb, but when I drink alcohol, when I have a couple of glasses of wine, I feel something. So I keep drinking because it makes me feel. Now, this sense of numbness, I think that this is not an uncommon feeling for women. They just probably don't know. They don't have the words to express this. Maybe numbness isn't a word that they use. But can you talk a little bit more around this numbness? Because I really get what you're saying. How do women, number one, acknowledge that it's there and that it's happening? And two, what are the steps? What can they do to feel again, rather than using something like alcohol or whatever it is, that external thing which we use to go out and give ourselves something to feel? You know the question I'm asking. What is it?
Yes. So numbness, and I can only obviously share from my lived experience, numbness for me was not knowing what I felt about anything when someone would ask me. Like not knowing what my opinion was. I'd go to a party and people would be like, oh, rah, rah, I think this and I think that. And I would literally ping pong from agreeing from person to person because I had no internal sense of what I even friggin' thought about the political situation. And I would just politely say, yeah, interesting, wow. And then if the next louder, more aggressive version came along, I'd be like, oh, yeah, that makes sense too. So no sense of what I actually feel and no idea of what my opinions and beliefs were. And people would say, what do you think about that, Mel? And I'd be like, I don't even have an opinion. And that just seemed weird to me because everyone else was so full of opinion, you know. So I started to retreat and hubby would say, come to this party and come to this. And I started to notice myself going, it's too much stimulation. Like it is overstimulation for me to be around people like that. So numbness just makes you like disconnect. So you don't get that connection human to human, and you don't get the mirroring of the nervous systems, and you don't get the energetic exchange. And so you separate yourself more and more. And that sense of separation, I think, lays at the foundation of numbness is I don't belong here. I don't know where I fit in. And what our nervous system has done is it has gone into a perpetual state of being disassociated, or being in freeze is often a word that you hear. And so you don't actually really feel vibrant about anything. You don't have those exalted states that the feminine is capable of going through, you know, the feminine energy of being like a tsunami and so full of life, which I am now, like I feel it all now, but you just stay in this flat line. And so everything's pretense, you know, like, because you don't have the internal barometer, does this feel good or not? You just go along this pretense line and it's exhausting. So we are physically depleting our body, running on empty, because we don't know how to fill our own cup, because we don't know what makes us feel good. So you say yes to everything, and you're seeking, like, where is my joy? Where is my happiness? I'll keep going. I'll go to Fiji and I'll do this yoga retreat and I'll join this program. And you're constantly looking outward. So what numbness does is it disconnects you from your inner resources, from your inner wisdom. That's why I call my body wisdom, because your body, your energetic field, your soul in inhabiting your physical body has everything you need and more. But if you're numb, that relationship is cut off. And how you come back to life is you start with the state that your nervous system is in. because the nervous system will block and keep everything at bay until it's in a state of receptivity, because it's stuck in flight or fight or freeze. And you can see it in people's eyes. You know, if you're sensitive and aware, you'll start a conversation with someone and very quickly you'll be able to tune into, are they like deer in the headlights, highly anxious, like, you know, or are they like not even there? You know, so it's got to start with the nervous system. It's got to start internally, Angela, and then we build on that resource. So hence me studying the TRE, which is one of a zillion modalities to support the nervous system.
So your journey with breast cancer. Now, I haven't had breast cancer, but I know there's likely many of our listeners have, but my husband does have melanoma. So I understand the medical system where basically you get a diagnosis and all of a sudden you're in this big machine and it's just one thing after another. And with that, and from what I've seen, and as I said, I just want to know your experience, is there the feeling that there's something wrong with there's something wrong with my body and I need to kind of not be part of that, because all of a sudden everyone's focusing on the cancer and not on you, that you're kind of just the carrier of the cancer? Does that make sense what I'm saying? Is that you're just part of a medical machine which all their job is to kill the cancer. They just want to kill the cancer regardless of what it does to your body. Really doesn't overly matter in the meantime.
Yeah.
And then for you then had to kind of reclaim that. Is that what you had to do, is reclaim not just, you know, the breast and, you know, that part of you, but also reclaim the cancer because it's part of you?
Yes.
Is that kind of, yeah.
So because I'd had a really solid meditative background, spiritual background before the cancer, I very quickly was able to see that my physical body had cancer, that Melissa didn't have cancer, the essence of who I really was. So what happens for people, I think perhaps that don't have that resource, is that they fall victim to the cancer and they can't separate themselves from it. Whereas I was able to almost hold space for myself and literally at times in chemo particularly just see my body receiving the drugs and know somewhere up here that the real Melissa was patiently waiting for my physical body to heal, and she was going to be right there and ready for me, and that the cancer was a wake-up call, an alarm bell ringing in my body, and it began my relationship with trusting my body. Now, a lot of women are like very angry with their bodies, like, how could you make me get cancer? You've turned on me. Whereas what I was able to turn it into was, my body has gifted me cancer to wake me up. And if I died from it, I guess I wouldn't have that at all. But for me, it was very clear from then on that I wasn't cancer, and that I then had a choice. Do I go back to living my life same old, same old? And I've seen so many women do that, like pretend the bloody cancer didn't even happen and just go straight back into, you know, picking up the vacuum and cleaning the house.
And do you think part of this is, and this is part of the conversation that I had with this woman the other day, is that she has to stay on medication. So every single day she is reminded that she had cancer. And that unless she takes this medication, she is at a risk that the cancer will come back. So that continual reminder, and that's what I think a lot of women get into, is that they get reminded every single day, I've got to take this pill, I've got to take tamoxifen or whatever it is they're taking, because every day that is my protection against cancer. Yeah. And that's where women get into that spot, because that's where the medical system puts them.
Exactly. But you know what? You have a choice. You have a choice about how you energetically work with the fact that you're on tamoxifen for the rest of your life. You can choose to see it as oh God, cancer, that's right. Oh shit, I wonder if it's going to come back. Oh God, what am I going to do then? Oh shit, look at my breasts, like they don't look like they used to. Or you can go, thank God for tamoxifen, because it's actually going to keep me going. Thank goodness there was a surgeon that could take my breast tissue away and recreate new ones for me so that I could function in my life like you have to work, like you learn to work with practice with the way you look at the situation. And for me, that's been very much about letting go of all of the stuff that was within me so that that kind of energy could come through. And now, like, I hated my reconstructed breasts for a couple of years. I couldn't stand looking at myself in the mirror because they were a constant reminder, oh, you had breast cancer. But now it's like, if I'm going to hate on my body for the next 40 years, then would I talk to my best friend like that if she had cancer? So I have, through my own inner work, I have been able to say, thank you, breasts. I know, like, you're not real breast tissue, but you make me feel happy when I wear certain dresses. I'm so grateful that that I've got an oncologist I can go and visit once a year who looks at my bloods to confirm that I'm still on the right track. I never have to worry about it. That next medical appointment is there because I know that I'm not going to get cancer again. But a lot of women will live with the fear of the recurrence, and they can't get past that.
And that's what I think. We need more of this. We need more of you out there talking to women about this. This should be part of the recovery process. It should be part of the, not retreatment, but it's part of, yes, it's the next step that you take. But generally what happens is once you've finished with your treatments and everything, it's like, okay, off you go, take this pill, come back and see me in a year's time. We'll run a few tests. But no, women are not being supported. And that's why I love the work that you're doing. And I know that you don't specifically work always in breast cancer, but it's just really connecting women to their physical. And, you know, the essence of our femininity lies within our breasts. And obviously when women are being finding out that they have breast cancer, it's almost an attack on who they are. You know, is the sense of who they are. And I love the way you speak. And when you said you're getting the treatments, like, your body was getting the treatment, but Melissa wasn't. Melissa was there and she was ready to just pop back in when your body was ready. And I love the way that you speak there. And I really wish more women had this type of support, because I know that I've got friends. I've got a friend who's going through, she's just starting treatment now. And, you know, and I've had other friends who've had breast cancer. And as I said, my husband has melanoma. So we continually run it, and he's in the medical system. It's like, it's just tests every single month. We run from scans to scans to see whether or not the tumours have shrunk or if they got bigger and all of that. And that's almost like a holding pattern. You can't move on because you don't know, because it's still there and all of that. But I just absolutely love the work and the way that you speak. But tell me a bit more about what TRE is. I've seen one of your videos where you were, whether or not it's when you were learning TRE or whatever you were doing, it was a TRE session that was being done on you and things were being released.
Oh, yeah.
You know which video I'm talking about.
I do, when I was in Bali, yeah.
Can you, firstly explain what TRE is, and I believe that TRE is very much about embodiment. So explain what that is as well, how all that kind of comes together.
Yeah. So TRE is the set of exercises that we do to allow our leg muscles to start to tremor in an involuntary fashion that is simply releasing tension from our body. So we allow the inner thighs particularly, so you end up laying flat on your back with your knees bent and your feet flat, and you bring on the muscle tremors. And it's the same tremor that you feel. A lot of women have it after childbirth. You see animals shake in a thunderstorm, little doggies. Our body has this mammalian reflex system in place to dissipate tension. But what do? We feel stress and tension and we just go,
yes.
So guess what happens after 30, 40 years of doing that? It's all stuck in your body. So you will have heard of books like, you know, The Body Keeps the Score, The Body Knows the Answers. TRE, which is the exercises, is just simply tapping into that natural involuntary shaking mechanism that our body has. So I learnt it for myself. As soon as I heard about it, I thought, this is a way for my nervous system to come out of numbness. Let me just trust it to pulsate back to life. And what happens is that you don't need to talk. You don't need to say, well, teacher, you know, when I was 17, I had a major car accident. You just come to the TRE class. I teach you the exercises. We tremor in a group or one-to-one. Sometimes people prefer one-to-one. I teach you how to stop them. I teach you how to start and stop them so that you learn that you're not going to be tremoring for the next 48 hours after a class. Because people are like, how do you make it stop? Oh, well, just slide your legs out to flat, because a different part of our brain jumps over the involuntary part and goes, time to stop now. The other most important part of it is self-regulation. Now, if you are in a state of being numb and shut down in your nervous system, you have no idea how to regulate yourself in overstimulation or anything like that, because you can't feel any of it. When you start the tremoring practices, you have to learn what your body's signs are of maybe being in overwhelm, like too much tremoring, I feel out of control. So I teach people for the signs of that so that they can practice safely at home, because David Baselli, the founder of TRE, was all about teach people how to do this and it becomes a home self-care tool. So that's that's what a class involves. So basically at the end of a tremor session, you feel relaxed because your nervous system has just like through your muscles, just and off it's gone. And everyone just lies there and goes, oh my God, I feel so calm. So with repeated practice of tremoring, you get to a stage where your nervous system is resilient. And you can hold stress and you can feel stress in your body, but you know that you're not going into contraction around it. You are going to be able to come back out of it. And your nervous system is going to be able to swing along the pendulum of stress, neutrality, shut down, and come back and look for homeostasis. And I can cope with, you know, being trolled online or shut down by my mother or questioned by my husband around my spirit, allow the innate background of my body to go, ah, but also know that I can come back to a place of centeredness because I've got that inner resilience. So it just brings this beautiful reference point from which to operate in this crazy, crazy world. And that to me is embodiment, is being able to be in your body, feel it, see it, sense it, cope with it all, but still have this point of balance and centeredness.
So in essence, from what I'm hearing, what you're saying, it's almost like we live in a world where we want to control everything, but we can control nothing outside of our bodies. But what this does is it actually gives us control of our body, because many women are so disconnected that they can't actually control how their body is reacting. It's just reacting, and as you're saying, it's holding tight. So in a world of which we have no control over, we do have control over how our body responds and how we respond within our body. Am I getting that? Is that correct?
Exactly. We can control how we react to the triggers in our life. We can control how we respond to the darkness and the evilness of the world around us, and not go into collapse, not go into contraction. Feel our innate, like subtle tendency to do that, but choose not to do that. And be in a place of openness and receptivity.
I'm actually just relaxed just speaking to you. I actually already have. I thought it was a nervous habit because I tremor my knees all the time. I've always tremored my knees, and whether it's sometimes when I'm sitting and sometimes when I'm lying, I've always tremored my knees. It's just been.
That's it.
I thought it was a bad habit. I used to get told as a kid, because I used to do it all the time and the floors used to bounce.
Yeah.
And I used to get told, stop doing that.
Yeah, exactly. So we shut it down and we're essentially like, fidgety kids. That's what they're trying to do. They're like, you're containing me in this classroom for hours on end and it's sending me into overdrive. So I'm naturally trying to dissipate the tension, but you're telling me to be still. I mean, imagine what that does to certain kids. Yeah. So one more point on that. What happens when you you come into a sort of a centeredness in your nervous system, and you can almost operate in the center and hold the field for it all, is that other people's nervous systems come into resonance with yours. They mirror.
Yeah.
So I will have a conversation with someone and they will already start to feel that point of stillness and centeredness, because that's the energy my nervous system is going out. And that's unbeknownst to them what their nervous system is craving, and it responds. So you need people in your life who are centered and balanced, because you don't need them to tell you what's going on. It's an energetic mirroring action between your nervous system and mine. So that's why you went, oh, I just feel relaxed hearing about this, because you're picking up and our nervous systems resonate with each other.
So then that would mean then that with relationships and with our family and with our partners and that, when we're in a place where we're relaxed and we're able then to, without even saying anything, relax down the relationship, the communication. So rather than us being at each other because we're different, we don't agree or whatever, I just relax, and then just because I'm relaxed, eventually that person will relax too, so long as I don't jump back up there and try and bring that tension back again. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, you might be that successful. We can't ever take responsibility for anyone else's nervous system. All we can ever do is stay in our place of centeredness. You know, feel the energy, the power, the anger, whatever it is that comes from them, but not be reactive. Like, that's the simplest, most survival level. Not to react to it in the same old way that triggers them and triggers you. But like I use the phrase hold space, you know, like I had spent years having to hold space for my mum, who was all her stuff. And I just could sit in this place of stillness, and eventually they pick up on that and they can simmer down a little bit too. But that might not always happen. That might trigger the shit out of someone. You know, like, right. Say something, like, why are you so calm? That could happen too.
And actually, I've had that before, and particularly with my kids, because, you know, in the past, kids trigger you, and I've reacted. And now, and particularly recently, the last few months, it's like, okay, let's just stay here and don't react. And, you know, so when I'm not reacting, there's no argument going on, and they keep going. They're going, Mum, I don't like it. Fight back. And going, really? It's not worth it. If it was worth it, maybe I would. But, you know, this is such a trivial thing. And they make the comment, you know, you're just so relaxed all the time, Mum. And which to me means I've really done a lot of work, because I've burnt out 4 times. And I know that I was a complete and utter stress head. But it's taken work for me to get to the stage where now I accept who I am, and I'm relatively chilled. And there's the need to push and to, you know, hustle and in the business and all of that is no longer there anymore. And I think some of that comes with age. I think that part of that is, you know, that transition into the next stage. It's like, really, what are we all fighting for? Part of it's come with the fact that my husband does have melanoma, and, you know, and a few months ago he was given 2 months to live, and he's gone past his use by date, and it kind of really makes you realize what is important.
Yeah.
But now it's like I'm relatively chilled all of the time, except when my 14-year-old daughter kind of triggers me. But generally I'm chilled, and it feels so much better because I'm not out there fighting the world anymore.
Yeah, yeah. And when you can be chilled from a place of compassion and non-judgment, that's kind of the next level, because it's like you're not internally kind of going, you know, but you're actually able to really feel the difficulty that someone else is going through, you know, and not have that internal dialogue going on. And that was when I knew I'd really shifted the dynamic with my mum, when I could see her through compassionate eyes and not feel the hurt anymore. And that's kind of the gift that comes with being able to be in that place. You get past the masks and the layers, and you really come from a heart place, you know. And when you feel that, like, There's no denying that. And you never forget what it's like to be in relation with other people from that energy.
Now, imagine with your mum or with either parent that would be tough, because they're in essence who modelled you. And they were your models as you were growing up, good, bad, indifferent, but that's who you modelled. And then as a parent, and then as a child, then to go, you know, actually, I see you in all your glory, your good, your bad, whatever, and I accept you regardless. That must have been a tough, I know that you did have a few issues with your mum, but it's a tough thing, because all of a sudden you're almost becoming the parent to you moving out there,
yeah.
are you?
Yeah, you do. You become the grown-up in a relationship. It was the hardest thing until what I'm working on now, which is husband-wife intimacy stuff, and it took me years. It took me absolutely years. But I loved myself enough, and I knew I wanted to be free of that old energy so much that I just kept taking one step at a time, letting my nervous system integrate the next piece. And, you know, one day I sat down with Mum and I completely opened up as to what my childhood experience was really like. And, you know, even like a year before that, I couldn't even imagine ever having the guts to say any of that. But if you just keep walking the path, you get to the point, and you don't give up on yourself, you just get to the point where you feel your needs, and like they can surpass all of that other person's stuff, and you see what the other person's stuff is for what it really is, which is self-hatred in a lot of cases. You know, no sense of them. They don't have any sense of who they are or what makes them happy, so they just project it on those nearest and dearest.
And I love what you said. It starts with self. It's your own self-love. When you love yourself, you get to the stage where it's okay for you to voice your own truth, and, you know, and you stand within that, and you're standing from that place of self-love. And you're right, you know, you don't have to take them just because they're your parent. They're not this big God. They're human as well. They make mistakes. They've got feelings. They were brought up by their parents. They have their fears, which you don't have to live with. You don't need to take that on.
No, you don't. You don't. And you do as a kid because you don't know any different. But yeah, like I was like, I'm not going to live the rest of my life like this. You know, I'm not going to keep the mask on that I had. That's why I got breast cancer, because I'd shut my heart down. And, you know, my left breast had the cancer. Right in front of my heart was where the tumour was. I had completely shut down my heart because I felt nothing, and I couldn't receive my husband's love. I have the most loving, affectionate husband, and I've had to learn how to receive love. So yeah, I didn't want to spend the rest of my life like that. That was to me.
I've got all this energy in me now, and I really want to thank you for being so honest and so open, because I know particularly that last bit of that conversation, that was a bit tough for you. I could see it. I could see it in your body. All of a sudden you needed to move. There was energy you needed to shift. So thank you for really being open with me and sharing that. Now, I want to know, from one wise woman to another, what words of wisdom do you have to share with our audience? Give us some Melissa wisdom.
Find the safety and trust in your body to feel what is really going on, because it won't bring you undone. It won't have you needing to leave your partner or leave your job. It will move through you and be released as you allow yourself to love parts of you that haven't yet been loved. And what is on the other side of that is such simplicity and joy and reclamation of a playfulness that you probably never had when you were a kid if you went through a troubled childhood. And everything becomes about, does it make me feel good? Do I feel good in this? And you get to a place where you can make all your decisions simply from the barometer of how does that feel in my body, then you don't have to rely on the external. You don't have to keep going out there to see kinesiologists and get everyone else to sort it for you. You can just go in here and go, okay, does that feel good to keep working on this relationship even though it's hard? Yes, it really does feel good. There's my answer. And until you do that inner work, you've completely denied yourself all of the answers that are within your body, because that's why you've got a body. That's why you're here with a body, for it to guide you through this physical 3D experience, which can be really bloody awful at times. So why wouldn't you cultivate the strongest, most beautiful relationship with the body and all the stuff that it has within you and what it can channel, what it can connect to multidimensionally? Like, that's another whole conversation.
Maybe we'll have that conversation one day soon. But for women that want to know more about what you do, share with us your website, your socials, whatever, and I will put them all in the show notes for those who are on the run as they're listening to this. But where can people find you if they want to work with you or just learn more about what you're doing?
.com.
Actually, can you say that again?
I'm really active on Facebook, particularly.
Sorry,
yes.
you dropped out. Everything just went blank and all I heard was .com.
MelissaTurnock.com. MelissaTurnock.com is my website. I'm very active on Facebook, particularly Body Wisdom is my Facebook business page. And I've just started a new Facebook group for women who are prepared to be truth tellers. And that is a private group because I was sick of being in online spaces where people just gave you thumbs up emojis and never engaged and connected. So I have that group going and it's really new. So not for the faint-hearted. And I'm on Instagram as well, Melissa_Body Wisdom.
And what's the name of your group?
It's so new, I've forgotten. Something like Be Seen Beyond the Masks. I'll send it to you.
Yeah, send me the link and we'll put it all in the show notes so that women can join you. And I have actually seen your frustrations in some of those other groups because we are in some of those other groups together.
Yeah.
I think the world gets very, very busy. And, and sometimes we forget about having that there's actually humans on the other end.
Yeah.
And, it's Facebook. It's like, okay, fine. I look at that and it's just a flip through. And we forget there's actually humans on the other end who want a connection. And I think that's what many women are missing is that connection. And that's what not just your building is not just that connection with your body, but our connection with others as well. So I'm really loving the work that you are doing. I continue to follow you. I follow you on Facebook and listen. I do actually listen to a lot of your videos.
Oh, lovely.
Sometimes I will generally give you a heart. I won't just give you a thumbs up.
Even better.
So I like to give hearts, rarely give a thumbs up. I think, no, if someone's gone to the effort, at least I'm going to give them a heart.
Yeah, nice.
If I don't have time for a comment, it's always a heart. But I really do love the work that you're doing. And when I very first came across you, and I have no idea when that was, what you were talking about and how open and vulnerable and honest that you were being really connected with me. And I think, that's what we're looking for. I think, particularly as we get older, we are looking for that type of connection. We don't just want, the surface stuff anymore. It's like, let's really connect. And I think women really do. I'm with you. We need to really understand our bodies. Our bodies speak to us in so many different ways, yet, and particularly as women go through this menopause stage of life, they turn to hate their bodies. They don't like what's going on. And they're not listening because every time we've got symptoms, it's the body just saying something's out of balance, something isn't right. And if we stop and listen, we'll be able to work it out. Maybe we're not eating the right foods. Maybe we're not getting enough rest. Maybe it is these built-up emotions. It could be anything, but our body only has one way of communicating, and that is through symptoms. And we shouldn't be masking by putting those drugs on those symptoms and masking them, because the message, as you know, will only get bigger and bigger and bigger
until you get a whacking great big diagnosis that you can no longer ignore, because we do ignore that. So I love the work that you're doing. So keep doing the work that you're doing. Thank you for doing the work that you're doing. And thank you for coming along and speaking so honestly and openly today. I am so, so grateful from the bottom of my heart. And I will put all of your links in the show notes. So anyone, if you want to know more about the work that Melissa does, honestly, follow her on Facebook. Her videos are amazing. What she has got to share is amazing. You need to learn more from this woman. She has got so much wisdom.
Thank you.
So I want to thank you, and I want to thank our audience for watching, listening, wherever you are. Thank you so much for being with us today. And from my heart to yours, infinite love and gratitude. I'll see you again next week with another Wise Woman's Conversation. Bye for now.
Hi, it's Angela here. Back again. What did you think of that conversation with Melissa? It was pretty good, wasn't it? So if you want to learn a little bit more about Melissa, if you want to go to her website, it's www.melissa.turnock.com. And if you pop over there, you'll be able to grab a free copy of a Heart-Centered Activation and Embodiment Journey. So she's got that free on her website. Now, if you want to check out Melissa on the socials, Instagram, her handle is Melissa_BodyWisdom, and her Facebook page is Melissa Body Wisdom. So go and check out what Melissa is doing and learn a little bit more about her work. Now, just before I go, I just want to remind you, if you haven't already had a look at it, I have a free webinar called Is This Menopause? It answers all of your questions about different symptoms, what's happening to your hormones, and everything that might be going on with your body from your mid-40s on. If you want to grab a copy of that so you can learn a little bit more about what's happening, visit bit.ly/Is This Menopause, all together, all one word. Pop over there and you'll be able to put your details on the page, and then I will send you the link to the recording with lots of information that will just give you a little bit of an understanding about what is truly happening to your body and why you feel the way that you do. So that's it for me, and I'll be back next week with another Wise Woman's Conversation. Bye for now.